By the end of this video, you will learn how to deploy a web application archive or WAR file or WAR file using Websphere Application Server 9.0. This video contains 4 steps. Step 1 is to install the IBM Installation Manager. Step 2 is to install the IBM Web Application Server using the Installation Manager. Step 3 is to create an application server profile inside the Web Application Server. And the final step is to deploy the WAR file into the application server profile. For step 1, we need to download the IBM Installation Manager. Let's do it by searching for IBM Installation Manager in Google. Click on the first link that says Installation Manager and Packaging Utility Download Documents. On that page, click on the link that says Installation Manager Download Links, all versions or platforms. In the next page, you will see a huge list of links which are actually different links for different operating systems. Since we are using a Windows Server environment, I am going to choose Windows as my platform. Then click on Submit to apply the filter. Once you get the search results, you will see that it will already be sorted by the release date, which means the latest will be on top. Select the latest version and click on Continue. You will need to have an IBM login in order to download any IBM product. Don't worry if you don't have one already. You can create a new one. It's free. I am going to log in here using my existing IBM ID and move on to the next step. Once you have completed the login process, you will be provided with 3 download options via which you can download the file. Select the option that says download using your browser via HTTPS. This is the easiest and most straightforward way because it will simply download it using your browser. Click on Continue to move on to the download confirmation page. On the download confirmation page, scroll down and click on the download link in order to download the installer zip. Once the download is completed, just go to the downloads folder and extract the zip file. Inside the extracted folder, you will find a file called install.exe. Run it using the administrator privileges. This is your installation wizard for the installation manager. You need not change anything in any of the steps here. Just keep clicking next until the installation finishes. Once you have completed installation of the installation manager, you will be seeing a page where you will have a button that says Restart Installation Manager. Click that button and it will close the installation wizard and it will open the actual installation manager for you. That's it. We have completed the installation of the installation manager. Now let's move on to step 2 where we install the IBM Websphere Application Server. To install the application server, you will need something called as the repository URL of the application server. This is nothing but an URL from where the installation manager can look up for the IBM Websphere Application Server and download it for you. Just go to Google again and search for IBM Websphere 9 repository URL. Don't worry, I have attached all these links into the video description. I am just explaining how you can search it for yourself even if these links don't work when you are watching this video. Click on the first link that says Online Product Repositories for Websphere Application Server. This will take you directly to a page where you see the URLs for Websphere Application Server 8.5.5. At least that is what I got. So we need to change the version to Application Server 9.0.5. Just click on the Change Version drop down on the top left and change it to 9.0. You might be seeing a different minor version here. Just choose the latest version of 9.0. It might be 9.0.8 or 10 or whatever. Once you change the version, you will see a page with a lot of repository links. We are concentrating only on the one that has .base in the URL. For example, you can see that my URL ends with base.v90. Copy this URL, head to your IBM Installation Manager, click on File, then Preferences, then click on Add Repository on the top right here, and then paste the URL that you just copied. Now you will be again asked for the IBM credentials so that the IBM Installation Manager can contact the IBM repository with the proper authentication and download the Websphere Application Server. Just keep the same credentials that you used to download the Installation Manager and click on Login. Once you have logged in, click on OK on the Preferences page. Now click on Install. Now when you click on Install, your IBM Installation Manager will know that it has to download the IBM Websphere Application Server from the repository that you configured just a second ago. If you see this listing where it says that it has an IBM Websphere Application Server of version 9.0.5. something and also the IBM SDK of Java SDK Technology Edition version 8, then your repository configuration is successful. Now select both the IBM Websphere Application Server and also the IBM SDK options and click on Next. The reason we are installing the IBM SDK is because IBM brings its own SDK into the Websphere Application Server. The one which you have on your local environment by default will not be picked up by IBM. There is nothing that needs to be changed after this step. So just keep clicking next until you finish installing the IBM Websphere Application Server. Before clicking finish, you will be asked to the page to choose whether you want to open the profile management tool or if you want to create an application server and many such options. I'm just going to click None and click Finish. This is because I wanted to show you how to actually open the profile management tool manually. You can find the profile management tool in the Start menu under IBM Websphere Application Server. Right click on it and make sure to run it as administrator. This will work only if you run it as administrator, otherwise you will see many other errors. Once the profile management tool has opened, click on Create. Pay attention to the upcoming steps because these are important. Simply clicking Next won't help in this case. On the environment selection page, click on Application Server and click Next. On the profile creation options page, there will be two options. You can either choose the typical profile creation or the advanced profile creation. The typical profile creation will take some default values for your profile, but we are going to do the advanced profile creation in order to understand what those default values are and what they mean. Click Next. And now on the optional application deployment page, disable everything except the administrative console application because we don't need them. Then click Next. And on the next page where you are asked for a profile name and location, you can choose whatever location you want, but it's better if you keep it in the default place. You can change your profile name to whatever you want. That is not a problem. If you see a little below, there will be an option to choose your server runtime performance tuning. This is an important step. You have the option to choose between standard or peak or development mode. I am going to choose the development mode because that will be easier for us developers when we develop and deploy an application. The peak mode is needed when you deploy your application onto a production server. There you don't need stuff like monitoring or logging to be happening because that will affect performance, and the standard mode lies somewhere in between the peak and development modes. Click Next, and on this page you will be asked for an option to change your node and host names. I'm going to leave them as the default here because that is some randomly generated unique node and host names. On the next page you will be asked if you want to enable administrative security or not. Since this is just a demo application, I'm going to disable the administrative security. If you are really interested in enabling the security, you can enable and give any username and password you want. These are new username and passwords and is not linked to anything else like your IBM account or your Windows account. In the next page, you will be given a provision to provide your own personal certificates. I'm going to leave it to the defaults so that the profile creation tool itself creates it for me. The next page is also something related to the certificates like its expiration period and the key store passwords. I'm just going to leave them to the default because I'm not going to work much on the security aspect of this. Here comes one of the most important step in the profile creation. This is where you configure all your ports for your HTTP, HTTPS and your administrative console, etc. If you are creating Websphere Application Server in a fresh environment, you need not change any of these values. But say you have some other services running already on these ports, make sure to change them so that they don't conflict with the existing services. I am going to click Next here because I know that I don't have any other services running on any of these ports. In the next page, you get to configure the Windows service that is related to your profile that you are creating right now. You can alter the startup type if you want. I am going to leave it at automatic so that the WebSphere profile starts whenever my VM starts. In the next page, you get the web server definition options. You can skip this because this is not mandatory for the profile creation. And here we are at the final step where you just need to click Create to create the profile. I would very highly recommend that you take a screenshot of this page because it lists most of the options that we need later on, like the port number or the location where the profile is installed. These cannot be easily recovered from the configuration files of the Websphere Application Server. So it is better that you take a screenshot now itself. And finally, click on Create and your profile creation will be done. Once the profile is created, you will be having an option to launch the First Steps console. This is a small utility that will help you to start or stop the server and do things like that. I am not going to launch this console now because I want to show you how to do it manually. So I am going to disable the check mark and click on Finish. You can now see our new profile listed in the Profile Management tool. Let's move on to step 4 where we deploy a sample WAR file into our newly created profile. Let's start by checking if our newly created profile is running. Open your Start menu and search for Services and click on the Services application. If you remember, we created the profile as a Windows service, so it will be listed down here inside the Windows Services pane. You will find the service listed by IBM Websphere Application Server version 9.0 and then there will be the instance and the node names. If you see the status here, it's empty, which means it is not running. Just right click on that and start the server. Starting the server for the first time might take some time. So we need to know whether the server started properly or not, or at least if the server started or not. To check this, go to the folder where you install your profile. For me, this is under C, Program Files, IBM, WebSphere, App Server, Profiles, AppSRV01. Now under this AppSRV01 folder, there will be a folder called Logs. open this log folder and wait until you see a new folder called server1 inside this folder. Once that folder is created, open it and find the file called startserver.log and open it. This file should have a line that says server1 open for e-business and process ID is some XYZ process. If you don't see this line, wait for some more time. Websphere Application Server is usually slow and it takes some time for the first initial startup. Eventually, when you see this line, we'll just move on to the next part and deploy the sample var into the application server. Open up the web browser and go to localhost:9060/IBM/console. This 9060 is not some random port. If you remember, I told you to take a screenshot of the ports page. In that page, there is an entry next to administrative console port, and this is the number for the administrative console port. Once you are inside the administrative console's login page, you will be asked for an user ID. Since we disabled the administrative console security, there is no need to give any password here. Just click on login with the empty user ID. You are in. Now on the desktop, I have pasted a sample var file which I got from the Tomcat official website. I'll give the link below in the video description so that you can download the same. Now back in the administration console, expand applications and then expand application types and click on Websphere Enterprise Application. You might see a default application there, just ignore it. Click on install on the top. Now you have to give the path of the var file to the Websphere Application Server. I have it on my desktop, so I am going to point it there and click on OK. On the next page, you can either choose the fast path or the detailed path. I am going to go with the detailed path so that we can know what steps are there. With this particular sample var file, I am getting this application security warning. You might not get this with all your var files or EAR files. I'm just going to skip this for now because this doesn't matter much for our demo. I'm going to click continue, and on the next page you can see a bunch of steps. We are not going to go through each and every step and understand what it is. I'm just going to go through the steps which are highlighted with an asterisk symbol. The asterisk symbol means that those steps needs attention and you need to configure something in order to proceed to the next step. On step 6, I have an option to map virtual hosts for the web modules. I'm going to select everything that is there. So in this case, I have only one web module, so I'm going to map it to the associated virtual host. And on step 6, you need to provide the context root for a web application. I am going to set the context root to /hello for my sample application. You will understand what this is in a few seconds. And on step 10, you can see the summary of the deployment that you are going to make. Once you have confirmed that everything is good, click on finish to complete the deployment. Once the deployment is complete, you need to confirm that your deployment has to be taken place. For that, click on save. Once you click on save, it will redirect you to the Websphere Enterprise Applications page and you will see your sample var deployed there. But the status of the sample var will still be in the stopped state. You need to start it. Just select the application using the check mark and click on start. You will see a message on top that says that the sample var was started successfully. Let's go check it out. Open a new tab and go to localhost:9080/hello. Here 9080 is the number that we get from the initial steps where we created the profile, and /hello is the context path we set for the application during the application deployment. And there we go. We have deployed our first sample Hello World application into our Websphere Application Server 9. This completes the tutorial. Let's move on to the bonus tip part. If you use Google Cloud Platform or any cloud platform for that matter, make sure you set up a budget alert. Otherwise, you will end up paying a lot of money for almost nothing. Take me for example. For creating this video about Websphere Application Server, I created a VM inside Google Cloud Platform. I created that VM with the lowest config possible. I gave like 2 GB of RAM and a single CPU and like 10 GB of SSD. It was the smallest instance you could think of. And after recording the tutorial, I left it running for 5 days. My intention on keeping it alive was to record something later on in case I missed to record something in the first recording. But little did I know that this would rack up a 1,000 rupee bill in just 5 days. I was expecting somewhere around a 50 or 60 rupee bill. I was shocked at first, but then I convinced myself saying that this is the price you pay to learn something the hard way. In any case, now I'll show you how you can set up a budget alert so that you don't fall into the same trap. Head to console.cloud.google.com/billing, then choose the billing account for which you need to set up the budget alert. Click on budgets and alerts on the left pane. You will see your existing budget alerts, if any. You can see that I have some budget alerts set up which I actually created after the incident. To create a new budget alert, click on create budget on top. Give it a meaningful name, something like a 100 rupee budget or a 50 rupee budget, and then choose the time range and choose all the projects and all the services. Make sure you choose all of them so that in case the cumulative sum totals up to your budget, then you'll get an email immediately. Click on next and set your budget amount. And then under actions, you can set up different thresholds at which you will get an alert. Make sure the trigger is set to the actual amount instead of the forecasted amount so that you will get the alert only when the actual amount reaches. And then scroll down and make sure that email alerts to billing admins and users is enabled. Click on finish and your budget alert will be created. Now you will get an email whenever you have crossed your budget. Do note that this won't do anything like stopping the VM or deleting the VM when you have crossed the budget. This will just send you a notification. So let's say you are sleeping and the budget has crossed at 1 AM in the morning. Then you won't know until you wake up. And by the time you wake up, the budget would have crossed and gone somewhere. So yep, that's it for this video. Hope it helped you. I am planning to do this as a series of videos where I show how to deploy a sample WAR file into servers like Oracle WebLogic or JBoss. This is just an experiment, and if this video is a success, then you will see the rest of the videos in this series also. Else, I'll just switch on to some other interesting topic. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.